Good evening, this is Hector Rivas with Off the Cuff. It's Wednesday, July 1st, and incidentally, it also happens to be the birthday of scientist and patriotic leader Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Who the hell is this guy, you say? Well, Leibniz happens to be one of the most significant influences of the founding principles of the United States of America. John Locke, in his essays on human understanding, pushed for the idea that freedom existed in life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Locke was merely defending the system of oligarchism which had dominated Europe since as far back as the Roman Empire. The idea that a small governing elite exists and the rest of mankind is to live subjected by their rule under beast-like animal conditions was a leading factor in European ideology at that time. Now Leibniz, following in the tradition of Nicholas Acusa, worked to destroy that system of empire by instilling a new ideology of a higher notion of the creative individual being in the then fledgling North American colonies. He wrote the new essays of human understanding, challenging Locke and correcting him. It was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which was the most crucial principle of government, and happiness was not merely a pursuit of sensory pleasure for one's own good, but a pursuit of the common good, the general welfare of the citizenry. This was the principle which our founding fathers took up, defining not only the Declaration of Independence, but also the Constitution of the newly established United States of America. Throughout history, the United States has been the only nation dedicated to a mission to destroy the system of oligarchism and imperialism forever, and this fight between the American system and the system expressed today in the British Empire defines the historical moment we are in today. No other nation can therefore lead civilization out of its economic collapse. No other nation has the cultural strength or constitutional authority to implement an international credit system between sovereign nations to rebuild the world today. And in the U.S., the only remaining embodiment of this Leibnizian tradition is Lyndon LaRouche. And with the June 27th webcast, a shift occurred, and a grouping formed around LaRouche and became a presidency in the wings dedicated to bringing the U.S. back to its rightful mission and implementing LaRouche's solutions for economic recovery worldwide. The only remaining opposition is the fascist administration gathered around President Obama, who has led this nation towards fascism and a complete economic breakdown. As a sign of the times, we include an update on the state budget crisis situation tonight. California is in near complete meltdown. Schwarzenegger is like the doctor who sawed off his patient's legs and then asked, "Hey, why aren't you running, buddy?" This morning, after the legislature's failure in passing a new budget worthy of Hitler's cuts, Arnie declared a new fiscal state of emergency on top of the old one, and the deficit rose to $26 billion. On Thursday, the state will begin issuing IOUs. Bill Lockyer, the state treasurer, stated that this would only send the state further into collapse and would add $8 billion in additional interest payments, an even greater deficit. Meanwhile, as the deficit continues to inflate, state workers and citizens are getting screwed. Schwarzenegger announced proposals to curb the growth in Medi-Cal, to tighten enrollment for food stamps, eliminate welfare for 500,000 families, and reduce in-home health care services. On top of this, he wants to sell the Los Angeles Coliseum, San Quentin State Prison, and other state property. In Pennsylvania, Rendell announced Tuesday night, after lawmakers in that state also failed to reach a budget agreement, that state workers will receive only partial pay July 17th and 24th, and no pay if the impasse continues. He has already ordered $500 million in cuts and has a proposed 16.5% hike in personal income tax. The best Ohio can come up with to deal with their budget crisis is to put slot machines at horse tracks. Hawaii, embroiled by strikes and protests, is issuing 3 furlough days a month per state worker on top of an already major government cuts. But they are not the only states going down. Indiana is falling right behind, officially bankrupt. Illinois, Arizona, North Carolina, New Jersey, Wisconsin, and every other state in this country are falling into a bottomless pit. The United States is bankrupt as a whole. Now the question we have to ask, is this what President Obama means by hope and change? The United States better change its policy immediately, because this is fascism. These are the economic conditions of fascism. That's the policy you are seeing in the U.S. All state legislators, institutional figures, and citizens, listen up. Now, more than ever, is the time to go with Lyndon LaRouche's Homeowners and Bank Protection Act and immediate bankruptcy reorganization while you're still alive to do it. Now, for a couple of updates on the Honduras situation. The OAS released a resolution today demanding that the government of Honduras restore Manuel Zelaya as president along with his pajamas. Let's briefly recall the facts of this case. Government institutions pulled a coup d'etat shipping Zelaya across the border to Costa Rica following his attempt at circumventing the Honduran constitution and creating a dictatorship in the nation. Therefore, any such resolutions or demands as have been submitted by the OAS, by Obama, the UN, and other leading governments should be seen for what they really are, attempts to sympathize with the idea of a dictatorship. And Obama's comments today on the need to reinstall Zelaya as president beg the question of whether or not he is planning on running such a coup on our own U.S. Constitution. As Lyndon LaRouche pointed out last night, he has the mentality of a fascist dictator, aka macho. All of these developments are signs of the times. We are living in fascist times under a fascist administration. However, it is a general breakdown of present society worldwide brought about by the British Empire which is dooming us all, including this present administration. That is what our fight is all about, and taking up LaRouche's solutions, as illustrated most recently in his June 27th webcast, is the only way out, because what LaRouche represents is a humanist and scientific tradition exemplified by figures such as Gottfried Leibniz that has existed throughout the centuries to eliminate the empire in favor of the true destiny of mankind. With that in mind, we offer a quote from the true father of the United States of America. This is Hector Rivas with Off the Cuff, and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz will be signing you off.
Even after the efforts of so many famous authors, I am not sure that the notions of right and justice have been made sufficiently clear. Right is a kind of moral power, and obligation is moral necessity. By moral, however, I mean something equivalent to natural for a good man. For as a Roman jurisconsult has well said, we should believe that we are incapable of doing things which are contrary to good morals. A good man is one who loves all men, so far as reason permits. Therefore, if I am not mistaken, we may most fittingly define justice, which is the virtue governing that affection which the Greeks call philanthropy, as the charity of the wise man, that is, as charity which follows the dictates of wisdom. So the assertion attributed to Carneades that justice is the highest folly because it bids us consider the interests of others while neglecting our own is based on ignorance of its definition. Charity is universal benevolence, and benevolence is the habit of loving or of cherishing. But to love or to cherish is to find pleasure in the happiness of another, or what amounts to the same thing, to accept the happiness of another as one's own. Thus, the knotty question of how there can be a disinterested love which is free from hope and fear, and from every consideration of utility is solved, and in a way that is also of great importance to theology. For the happiness of those whose happiness pleases us is obviously built into our own, since things which please us are desired for their own sake. Thus, the contemplation of beautiful things is itself pleasant, and a painting of Raphael affects him who understands it, even if it offers no material gains, so that he keeps it in his sight and takes delight in it, in a kind of image of love. But when the beautiful object is at the same time itself capable of happiness, this affection passes over into true love. The divine love, moreover, excels over all other loves, because God can be loved with the happiest result, since nothing is happier than God, and at the same time, nothing can be conceived more beautiful and more worthy of happiness. And since He possesses supreme power and supreme wisdom, His happiness is not only built into ours, if we are wise, that is, if we love him. But it also constitutes ours. But since wisdom should guide charity, we also need a definition of wisdom. I believe, however, that we will best satisfy the concept men have of it if we say that wisdom is nothing but the science of happiness itself.